Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we're going to be breaking down the results from the Utrecht special event that occurred this past weekend. And there is some ridiculous stuff that went down, like back-to-back wins for Owen Kammerman towards outrageous concoction of a deck that I can't even begin to comprehend. We'll talk about that for sure. We, of course, will have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment on the podcast. We will have the second week of our newest segment, the City League Watch, where we're going to take a look at the decks that have been doing well over in Japan at their City League tournaments the last couple of weeks. We will talk about the Go Anya Regional Championships taking place this coming weekend in Latin America. Lots to talk about this week. And then, of course, we're going to kick things over to our Patreon for our Patreon exclusive bonus episode where we give a 30 extra minutes every single week. Be sure to check us out on Patreon if you want to get a little bit of extra content from myself and Azul. Speaking of which, my name is Chip Ritchie, joined here as always by my friend and co-host Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, buddy?
Pretty good, Chip. Had a pretty good week overall. I'm a little bit fearful though, because um, Lorelai's been sick over the last week or so, and um,
Yep,
I woke up this morning and blew my nose, and my snot was yellow. So
it's coming for you, buddy.
yeah, hopefully not. I also have felt a little bit run down the last couple days. I think that might have to do. Also, it's like not a good mix because I was up watching, or I was up early, not a ton of sleep, watching the Utrecht special event over the weekend. So not as much sleep as I normally get comboed with the potential of getting sick. I don't feel like I'm sick right now, but yeah, I feel like it's definitely possible. Like I could
Mm.
I could wake up tomorrow and just be like, well, and tweet out, I'm not streaming today, guys. Sorry, I got sick. Which would really suck. It depends how long I'm sick for too, because I plan on restreaming the regional this weekend as well in Latin America. So or down in Brazil. So I plan on restreaming that this weekend as well. And that one's like a lot better of like a um lineup for me for as far as like time wise,
Yeah,
time
yeah.
zone goes. Because like for the European ones, I wake up at 4 a.m. and or 3 a.m. and they're already in like round two of the day. So I miss like usually the first 1 to 2 rounds of the tournament. And then for this one, I could theoretically like catch the whole tournament. I actually don't know the information for the stream. Honestly, I don't know for sure that there is a stream,
I was
but
gonna say, I wasn't
I'm
sure that there was one.
I think
Their
Kovac
tournaments are
has
normally
been.
not broadcast.
They streamed the last one.
Did they? In Curitiba?
Yeah, yeah. I think it
Oh,
is
yeah,
supposed to be streamed.
we saw the Arvinzard and all.
Yeah. I think it is supposed to be streamed, but, I don't know for sure, but I'm trying to figure that out, of course, before the weekend hits so I can get my stream schedule all organized and know what I'm doing, but a couple days before that actually happens, but I was excited to actually stream these because the time zone lines up a little bit better for me, so I hope I don't get sick, or if I do get sick, not sick enough to not, stream through over the weekend, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. What about you, though, Chip? How was your weekend?
Yeah, so you're worried about getting sick, and I'm getting over being sick this past week. So, yeah, last like Monday, Tuesday, Samuel was really, really sick. And so I kind of just figured like whenever he's sick, he's only been really sick like one other time besides this time. And he was like, he had a little bit of a fever. It's always a little nerve-wracking. We haven't like experienced it too much as parents. So it's like, you just wanna you can't, like he doesn't understand, like, how to cough to, like, try to help clear his throat up and stuff like that, like, it's just kind of a nerve-wracking thing because he's, like, breathing and you hear all this gunk in his chest, but he's better, he's feeling good now. I'm getting over it, because he got me sick. I was basically out of commission, like, Thursday, Friday last week. It, like, knocked me on my butt. I was not feeling good at the end of last week, but started feeling better Saturday. Sunday felt almost completely better. And then today, and yesterday, I've been like, basically fine, still just like a little bit of sniffles and stuff like that. But um, yeah, man, it's not fun. And so it makes me nervous for like, if he starts going to preschool or something like that here in the next few months, when he turns two, like the kids are just like sponges, man. They just absorb all
All
types of
these
like
diseases.
gross, diseases and viruses, and it's like, oh, just gonna bring it home, and I'm just gonna get sick. That's just how it is. I was talking to one of the parents of one of the kids I coach, and he was like, "Yeah, man, it's like when they go back to school." I just know, like, they're gonna come home and, like, someone in the house is getting a cold the first week of school, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, it's been good, kind of a chill time. Other than that, nothing else really to report. And yeah, I guess we can just move on to our kind of first thing. Before we get into the Utrecht special event results, we do have a couple of announcements. Um, and one of those is to help promote and shout out the charity match that is happening this weekend at Nerd Rage Gaming in Buffalo Grove, Illinois. Azul, you want to fill in the details about it?
Yeah, so they're doing a charity show match. I'll read their little team battle summary here that was shared with me. Nerd Rage Gaming and the Lawson Kitchen are raising money for the Greater Chicago Food Depository.
Yeah.
The teams, yep, the teams will be having a tabletop team battle live at NRG at 12 p.m. Central, March 9th, which will be streamed on Twitch at twitch.tv/NRG Store. You can leave a link in the description. The event will include games in old formats, giveaways, donation incentives, and more. 100% of the money raised will go directly to the charity, and neither team takes a cut. If you would like to donate ahead of the event, please go to twitch.tv/charity/NRG store. Once again, we'll leave some links in the description for the donation link. See you on March 9th. Yeah, so NRG's been a competitive team in the Pokemon space for a while, like pre-COVID.
Yep.
They've been around, and the Lost Zone Kitchen, obviously newer. They're not like a game store or anything, but group of players who have created a testing group and definitely a presence online in the Pokemon community for sure. But yeah, they're doing a charity match, team show match, charity match. So yeah, if you guys got some time, you want to check out some tabletop action and donate to a good cause, check them out at the twitch.tv energy store on March 9th at 12 p.m. Central.
Yep, good cause, good people doing it. So be sure to tune in, check it out. I'll try to tune in when I get a minute or two to check it out. Looking forward to seeing, especially some of the retro stuff that they might have out there. Always love seeing some of that being
Yeah.
pushed out there. Looking at some old formats and all. And then, yeah, one more announcement that we had was that we are going to be adding one more perk to the uncommon support tier for our Patreon supporters. So just adding something to, we're not like creating a new tier or anything like that, so just updating the current base level tier on our Patreon, and that additional perk is going to be getting the uncommon energy channel content 24 hours early, not the uncommon energy podcast, but the like uncommon energy channel. So that's the evolution series that we have been doing, and any other videos that we end up putting out on the channel, like we did the building a deck from a elite trainer box, which was an interesting experiment. And we've got a
Yeah.
lot of other plans for this channel, and any videos that we're going to put out on this channel, we are going to be releasing to our Patreon supporters 24 hours early. Just wanted to throw that out there for anyone who wants to get their hands on that a little early and show your support to us. You also will still get that 30-minute extra bonus episode every single week.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds good. All right. Well, Chip, let's get into Utrecht that went down this weekend. And I think what they had like 800 special events are really weird because there's no entry fee. The only requirement is that you register and then you submit a deck list within a certain time frame, I believe. So what happens with that is a lot more people register
Yeah.
who are really unsure if they're going to go. So I believe there was like I don't know 1,100 or 1,200 people, or there was like 1,100 people who submitted deck lists, I think. And we see here the turnout was only 860. And then on top of that, for the meta share of decks, because people just submit random decks to hold their place in the tournament,
Yeah.
unknown or what is it? Unidentified,
Unclassified.
unclassified decks made it to the first page of
Yep.
the deck listing. So there's nothing to freak out about that, for sure. And be like, oh my gosh, how did this make it? What were people playing in Utrecht? The answer is probably a bunch of people submitted Magikarp and 59 Energy as their deck list holder for
Yeah.
the tournament, and that's why Unclassified made it into the top 6 decks on the meta share. But that's why you don't usually see that happening, is because regional championships operate like a little bit differently. And you see total trainers or totals master trainers at 1107, and then they dropped what 100 or 267 players or 47 players after round one. So,
Yep.
yeah, and then we see that yeah, Limitless took the number after round one after players were dropped. So there was that many people who submitted deck lists and then didn't show up. That led to yeah, special events are just look a little bit weird. Honestly, at this point,
It also
you know,
makes
I
me
guess
wonder too, like, if Roaring Moon was really the number 1 on the meta share, right? Because there's probably a decent amount of people who just, like, copy pasted, the deck that has been hype right now for league cups or whatever,
it's
like,
possible as well.
it
I
it
don't know,
it
but
kinda messes up all the numbers, honestly.
yeah, definitely. Actually, yeah, for sure. I guess that is true. Or maybe Roaring Moon players are just more decisive in knowing if they're going to go to Utrecht, and like the unclassified players are like the Charizard players that could have been more. But we do see in this meta share, yeah, Roaring Moon was the number one deck, which is definitely a surprise to me. But the rest of it, I'm not too surprised by. Gardevoir being less than 10%, but unclassified is like taking up some of this percentage, right? So even if you didn't turn the unclassified players into other decks, if you just remove them from the percentages, everyone's percentage would go up. So we'd
Sure.
probably see Gardevoir at 10% and Charizard at 13 and Lostina at 14. I don't know if Roaring Moon gets higher than 14. That's kind of a lot. But yeah, Lostina being right there, Charizard being there. Yeah, the only thing that surprises me is like that Roaring Moon was so popular, but then the next three decks being there within as close a proximity as they are to each other and percentage wise, like that seems pretty reasonable. Charizard kind of finally has taken the dip that I feel like has kind of been expected for a little while. But it feels like it maybe just Roaring Moon replaced it. Honestly, someone made this comment to me a little while ago, and I think it is kind of true. Like, there's so many new players getting into the game. What are people telling those newer players to play? Miraidon, Roaring Moon, and Charizard. And the most popular decks have been Charizard and Miraidon. And now Miraidon has kind of fallen off because once a deck becomes such a bad play or such a poor play, no one really wants to play it, right? Even if you are a newer player, it's an easier deck to pick up.
Yep.
You'd rather play an easier deck to pick up that's better, like Roaring Moon. And now we see Roaring Moon kind of become the number one deck here at Utrecht. You think there is just going to be like always a percentage of the meta decks that are like, because I feel like it hasn't always been this way in the past, or at least such a large number. But there's so many new players getting into the game that maybe over like the rest of the season, next season, we'll see that kind of large percentage put towards decks that are kind of the recommended to new player decks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense, but I don't know that it's that different from really any time in the last 10 years or so of the game, right? Like,
Well, there's just more new players, I guess would be the only
there
thing,
is a
right?
lot of new players, but, like, um, those decks are popular because they're, like, recommended to new players, but they're also popular because they're good
So
decks,
yeah,
they're
they're the best,
powerful.
they're the easiest good decks to play, right?
Sure. And so, like, you probably also have plenty of people who've, like, been playing for plenty of time, right? Like,
Right.
been
It's still
playing
gonna
for
play it,
years, but
yeah.
they don't commit that much time to the game, and they're just like, "Yeah, this Roaring Moon deck is cool. I get to flip for Pokemon Catcher. I get to, attach a bunch of extra energies in a turn, one hit KO anything. Sign me up. I'm down." Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's hard to pinpoint like one specific thing that is the reason that a deck would be ranked a little bit over another deck. I think it's just like there's truth to all of this. I mean, there's top tier players who think Roaring Moon is really, really good, and like they just chose to play it because they think it is really, really good. There's people who are just good players who just like this type of deck that they chose to play it, right? And then of course there's tons of new players who like this is the deck that they've been picking up. So it's like
Yeah, but I
I just like all things are true.
well, yeah, sure, but I think the percentage of new players playing Guardy to Roaring Moon is probably a pretty big difference. Like, I think that inflates it definitely inflates some decks' numbers, which will lead to an interesting result in tournaments where like a deck is really popular but doesn't do very well. And it's because
Which we saw with Charizard for quite some time in the US,
yeah,
right?
and exactly. That's exactly what I mean. Like the deck is overly inflated. Not it's super popular not because of how good it is, but because of how like accessible and how much maybe data is out there about the deck, or just like one of the things is like how easy the deck is played. It doesn't mean just like that the deck is bad. Easy doesn't mean bad, but it just means it's easier to play than something like a Gardevoir, which will lead to more people playing it just kind of on average. There will still be good players playing it, of course, but there'll be also way more average players playing Charizard than Gardevoir, right?
Sure. No, yeah. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Could
Like Roaring
definitely
Moon
see it.
hasn't been like an extremely. It had a really pretty good run at Knoxville, right? Roaring Moon did, but it hasn't had like a ton of success. But it's the most popular deck all of a sudden here at Utrecht. Like I feel like that one of the reasons for that has to be its not its expected success to have in a tournament. Of course, it depends on what your goal is, tournament to tournament. Of course, that's going to be like individual. But it's like a good deck that's easier to pick up than something like Gardevoir, so or a Lost Tina.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
let's look at the results now from Utrecht. We can start off with the first place deck, and that is Owen Kammerman, and that also is none other than the Mew VMAX, baby. It wouldn't be a European tournament if Mew VMAX didn't make a deep run, and what do you know? It ended up coming out on top this time. So fitting, right? That Mew would win the last tournament that it's legal for in Europe.
Yeah, it's the Fusion Mew as well, not the Double Turbo Mew. Both like solid decks right now, but I think but honestly, because of like the Roar and Moon matchup, you probably want to be playing the Fusion Mew. I think you have a lot better time against the Roar and Moon deck, and that is what Owen took down in the finals. So yeah, Owen wins back to back majors in Europe.
With
It is a
two
special
different
event.
decks as well, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, with two different decks. Owa setting himself up for the meta manipulation, winning with Chi and Pao, then playing a deck that has a good matchup against Chi and Pao in the
Yeah,
next tournament. It doesn't get easier
classic.
than that. Yeah,
He's learning
classic.
finally. That's what Azul did for years, man.
Do well with deck, play deck that beats deck that you just played that did well with. But yeah, it's a pretty crazy feat, right? Back to back majors. Like the special events, there's like I guess one thing I'll say on that as well, like special like European special events are majors. Then you go look at some of like the Latin American special events. They just like never have like they get like 70 players, right? Like I think it's definitely a difference in caliber of tournament for sure. I wouldn't
Yeah,
call
sure.
all special events majors, but I would call European special events majors. They're basically regionals in terms of size and competition. You don't have like the international players outside of Europe going over to these events just because there's no prizing to be gained. Like the prizing for special events. The only difference between regionals and special events is that there is no cash prizing. That's literally it, and they're free to enter because of the lack of cash prizing, I
Right.
assume. So free to enter, no cash prizing. But besides that, if you win a special event, oh, and actually also only European special events. If you win them, you get your world's invite. Every
Yeah.
other special event, if you win them, you just get 200 championship points. But the European ones, it's exactly like the regional breakdown. You win it, you get your invite. You also get your 200 points, and then the point scale down from there, like a regional at any of the special events. But only European ones, you actually get your invite, and that's because they are just like vastly larger than any other special events out there. And it really is just what Europe and Latin America that has special events anymore. We had like a
Yeah.
couple North
And
American special events.
South Africa.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So yeah, back to back major dubs for Owen with the Mew, which a crazy stat kind of came out of this, which I wasn't really aware of, and I was even kind of like, because I remember like last podcast or the week before, I was like, does Mew even really win that much in Europe compared to everything else? But it turns out the answer is yes, by
Yep.
a lot.
Yep.
Do you have like someone's tweet or something where what was it? The numbers are like it has one win in like every other region. It won once in Australia, once in OC, won once in North America, won once. I don't even know where else it's won, but it's like won once a bunch of different places. And then in Europe has 7 wins. Mew has won 7 times in Europe. It actually is that dominant over in Europe. And yeah. I don't know. It is kind of crazy. I didn't think the stat was that far off. I remember being like I said, a week or two ago, I was like, man, I mean, I was like, maybe it's more of just like a forced joke than anything that Mew is like winning in Europe. That's kind of how I felt. But after this win, and then now knowing that data, knowing that stat, yeah, I think Mew does kind of own Europe over there. They just don't know how to put the Drapions and the Spiritombs in. Like
Yeah.
they have all the tools. Pokemon gave them the tools, and Europeans are like, nah, we're good.
Yeah. Mew getting another win, not really that surprising. I mean, because the deck is I mean, I
That's
know
good.
it's like a good meme, right? The whole Europe, the Mew deck, MEU, right? Mew.
Yeah,
But, like, I mean, the deck is obviously, like, insanely powerful. Genesect might have, like, one of the strongest abilities in the history of the game, like, considering
yeah,
everything that, goes alongside it, right? And it's
yeah,
actually got me
definitely.
kinda interested this week, after seeing Mew get this win. We're coming to the end of the, rotation, right, into the format. We're gonna lose Mew, VMAX, Genesect, all these guys here in just a few weeks. It made me kinda wonder, like, how does it stack up compared to other decks that have been dominant in the past? Do you have I was looking at some of these numbers, Azul, in the modern era, because that's all we have here on Limitless. Um, what deck do you have any idea what the top, like, 5 decks would be for tournament wins?
Tournament
Uh,
wins?
tournament wins.
Um, man, I'm actually not too sure. I mean, I would assume
So we're thinking cash era, the
Asher,
international
yeah, yeah,
era,
yeah.
right? 2017 season and onward.
Uh, maybe Zorark, maybe a Zorark, maybe Zoroark.
So I will
Um,
say, for purposes of this, Zoroark is just grouped into one thing.
okay, then definitely Zorark.
Yeah, Zoroark is
Yeah.
number 1 by a lot.
Yeah. Then Yveltal, I would imagine is up there. Zorark, Yveltal, Mew might be up there then, I guess, if it has 7 in Europe, like, Mew's been around for a while. Lugia, maybe, but Lugia didn't really have that much time before
Lugia's
rotation
still got
hit.
time to add to it though,
Yeah,
right?
that is true. Lugia does still have time to add to it, but I'm thinking,
And
like, just pre-rotation Lugia, but if it's, like,
Lugia
all
Lugia's not in
Lugias,
the top 5. Lugia's not
he's not in
Lugia's
top 5.
actually 8th though, with
Okay.
13 major wins.
So Zork's number 1.
44 major
Oh
wins
my
for Zork.
gosh.
Yeah, pretty nuts, man.
Where's Yveltal at?
Eviltall
Not
is
even up there?
9th. So
Ninth.
evil a lot of
Okay.
Eviltall's time came before the cash era.
That's true, it did have a lot of
2014,
time before that,
2015,
yeah.
2016, it dominated. It was really good all those years, but, um and there were still expanded tournaments, in 2017, but it was not,
No, I don't think Buzzwole quite is gonna be up there.
Buzzwole is actually 6th with
Okay.
14. So this is actually kind of an interesting one. I looked at all the stats so that you can track on Limitless. So you can, like, sort decks on Limitless and look at, the points that they have, like the Limitless points. You can look at earnings, you can look at top 8 finishes, and you can look at tournament wins, right? And if I was looking at Buzzwole is 6th in tournament wins. In points, it's all the way down at 9th.
Wait, are
In
you gonna pull the I can't see what you're showing.
I know. I want you to guess a little bit more.
Oh, you want me
I'll
to
show it in a
guess a
sec.
little more? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Alright.
I'm just talking about the Buzzwole, going on a little tangent here. In
Yeah.
earnings, it was 8th, but then if you look at top 8 finishes, Buzzwole was all the way up to 2nd.
Top 8 finishes? Buzzwole
Yeah.
was cooking, Buzzwole was cooking.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was your crew. You guys played
We
that
played
for,
a lot
like,
of
you
Buzzwole.
dominated that whole format with, like, the same 59 cards pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so back to the main question. Tournament wins, right?
Number 1 Zoroark. Is
I
Mew
I'll
up
just
there?
I'll
Where's
just
Mew at? Mew's gotta be, like, 10th, 11th?
Mew is 2nd,
Oh, Mew
2nd.
is 2nd.
Mew is
Although
2nd in
I'm thinking about,
tournament
like, the
wins
7. Okay, okay, that does make sense.
with
Wait, how many is it compared to
20.
Buzzwole? Okay, you're bringing it in now.
Yeah, I'll bring it in now. So Zorak has 44 tournament wins, Mew Genesect
Arceus
with
is
20,
20?
Arceus with 20. This was a little surprising. And then
Yeah.
Lost Box with 18, Pikarom with 15.
Man, yeah, the newer archetypes have been really dominant. Yeah, Lost Box up there. That makes sense if they're all being clumped together. Lost Box does have some dubs when you put them all together like that, which I think for, like, the Lost Zone decks, it is kind of fair.
Well, yeah,
Um,
and it's tough though, because like the Zoark decks, expanded Zoark and standard Zoark were so different, right, from one another.
yeah,
And then
Zoro
Zoark
Rock,
later in its
Sauropod,
life, like
Control
Zoro
Zorg, Zoro
Guard,
Garb,
Zoro
yeah.
Control, there's Zoro Rock, Zoro Pod, like all these decks are pretty different, right? I
Zoro
mean,
is the only
Zoro,
one that feels like it's cheating because like, Arceus decks, it's still, like, Arceus with its partner, which is kinda what Zoroark is, but Zoroark kinda feels like Zoroark feels like it's cheating here. Everyone else feels fair. Like, even the Lost Zone decks, it's like, they're all just kind of different, you know? Like, if you're just playing a gate build of Lost Box, depending on the meta, you're gonna change out some of your main attackers. They're not completely different decks, though. And Buzzwole was either Buzz Rock or Buzz Garb, but Buzz Garb wasn't very popular. So, yeah, Zoroark kinda feels like it's cheating here a little bit, but yeah, actually, yeah, Mew is right there, right at 20, isn't it? That's kinda crazy. I didn't think Mew would be there at 20.
and I don't know, and Mew as well, didn't get to compete in tournaments for like the full life of the card existing, right?
That's true, yeah, it's like most potentially dominant time, the time where it could have been most it didn't get to go through the non-DTE era
Yeah.
of Fusion Mew,
The
where
early
it was
fusion,
pretty good.
wherever all Mew had to do was beat decks like, Jolteon VMAX.
Yeah.
Like
The deck was pretty good, the deck was like BDIF then too, it's BDIF up until man, I don't even know when it stopped being because even when it was there but wasn't winning, because it felt like it took for Mew forever to get a win. Um, Well, I guess you gotta win initially immediately from
I
Natalie,
mean, it was only, like,
but
6 months, I think, or so before like, from
it
when
lost.
Fusion
Yeah.
Strike came out, so it's, like, not that much time. But then also, like, some of the other decks that maybe would have done better have no finishes up here, like ADP. We see Zacian V down here at
Yeah.
15th with 7 wins, right? If we had had
Why is
tournaments
it
all through
why is it labeled
2020, 2021, like, can you imagine how much ADP you would see?
yeah, ADP would have been up here for sure, 100%. There's, like, no shot it wouldn't have been. The deck was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why is
Um,
there not why is it Ization instead of an ADP? That feels disrespectful. Like, Zacian is good, but it's ADP.
well, there was, like, some of these there was, like, some expanded Turbo Zacian decks, I think, before
Oh, but I guess most
or,
recently it
like,
was, like,
when
the
people didn't play it with ADP,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then
Wait,
expanded
Regional Vancouver. What is that?
right here.
2023. What is this? Do I know this deck? Nope.
The Zacian V-Star,
Of
buddy.
course. It got the Metagross in there. Let's go.
Oh my gosh, we're going down a rabbit hole right now. But yeah, I mean, this just had me looking at,
How does honestly, how does Garbodor not have more wins? Where was Garb at?
right here, Trash
Is it
Lanch,
listed as Garb? Top 8
tournament
numbers?
wins, supply.
Where is it at?
This is top
It's
8
right there.
finishes. Tournament wins. There we go.
Well, it's
Garbodor
listed as
10th.
Trashalanche, but it's not listed as Ability Lock Garb. See, that would be interesting because Ability Lock Garb probably has way more wins, right? Because all the Yveltal wins are also Garbodor wins.
Some of the
Let's throw some more in there.
Seismitoad.
Yeah, yeah. Because that's the truly dominant card, to be honest, amongst the like a Trash Lance is good, but I think Ability Lock Garb. If I had to pick one to have in my arsenal, I'm going with Ability Lock. I think Trash Lance is
Probably so.
cool, but it ain't no
All right.
Ability Lock Garb.
Fun little trip down memory lane here, but maybe this is a good topic for
Regroup.
another time, right? We'll have plenty of time this summer to talk about, maybe what the best decks of all time are.
Yeah,
Um,
but we can get into the second place list. Roy and Moon did get second place. I guess I was just talking about how Roy and Moon has kind of lacked in success, but it did get second place here. And it was the Super Turbo build, the four catcher, four tracking shoes. Honestly, I'm curious how far off of it looks like Kim played the exact same list. How far off of Marzan's list this is? It's probably pretty close to what Marzan played at
Barzon didn't play Water
Knoxville.
Energy.
Yeah, and there was no waters. So it has like the extra option here with the water energy, which I like if it feels like comfortable to include them. Like, forcing your opponent to go get Manaphy and put it down. Or they don't play Manaphy or they don't think to go get it. They can
Yep.
kind of cheese them with the Greninja play. It was actually funny in uh one of Filippo's games, almost used Mew EX to copy the opponent's Greninja
Yep.
instead
Because
to get the, the Moonlight
you can do it with all
Shuriken
Dark
up.
Energy, buddy.
Yeah, you can do it with all dark energy. Gets
Yep,
there a
or
little bit
just
more
1 water or
conveniently.
something.
Yeah, which is interesting. But yeah, the Roaring Moon made it all the way to the finals. And that matchup is a little bit closer though. Like it is Roaring Moon, the Air Dark Pokemon, but the Mew deck can force you to KO 3 Pokemon and can get the first two prize knockout.
Yep.
I think there's a little bit of a blunder in game 3 from Filippo. I think Filippo, I'm not 100% certain, but I think he thought his Squawk ability was prized and then did not
Oh, I
like
saw that.
yeah,
Yeah,
did
yeah.
not like play Ultra Ball in game 3 to like try and get the Greninja more Pekko board, which is what you want to do up against Fusion Mews. You want more Pekko or Greninja in the active with the other one on the bench. So
Yeah.
the Mew player, even though they can attack turn 1, can only get a one prize knockout. And
Yeah.
then you can get the first KO. That sets you up for the 1, 2, 3 prize trade. Um,
And honestly, that's a strategy you wanna do in, like, the mirror match. That's a strategy you wanna do against, like, Miraidon, right? Like, anything that can take 2 prizes on turn 1, you wanna do that against. So, it's definitely a play he knew about. So, I wonder if he did think it was prized.
it seemed like the only thing that like made a ton of sense there was that he thought his Squawk ability was prized. So then he just like kind of chilled for the turn, and then Owen got that turn one KO with the Meloetta on the active Moltres, and they just kind of snowballed it from there. It was kind of over. Yeah,
Yeah,
got all the way to the
I
moon.
like this list a lot, to be honest.
And
Like,
super aggressive.
if I wanted to play Roaring Moon, like, this list would be a pretty high up there consideration for me. 4 Pokemon catcher, come on, man. Let's go.
Yeah, and the four trekking shoes as well, right? We're just going
Yeah.
fast. Yeah, I can't. I haven't played with the catcher build of Moon yet. It is something I want to do. Put a little bit of time into that, just see how it feels compared. The other build, I put a little bit of time with the Ross build finally,
Mhm.
and I mean that felt fine. It felt good. But maybe the catcher feels that much better. I definitely want to try out the catcher build of the Moon. I think I would start here as well. There's no reason not to just copy the second place list from the most recent major.
So, Mew gets the win. Roaring Moon with the 2nd place, but, I mean, without a doubt, the most talked about deck from the weekend
For sure.
is Tord Reklev's concoction. I mean, I gotta go to his Twitter, man. I can't even get this full thing on the page. Azul, what the heck is going on here, man?
So actually, I think I ran into Tord, maybe like a month ago on ladder, and he was playing this. It's basically just kind of like an everything deck. Not quite everything. You got Urshifu, one of the most powerful attackers in the game ever, and then you got Charizard, one of the most like consistent, just like do it all Pokemon in the game. It's just like so self sufficient that you can really like ride on that to be like the core of the deck is the Charizard, and then he just got a bunch of other stuff in here to do like gimmicky stuff. You got the Urshifu, like I said, you got the Gmax Rapid Flow, fighting type Pokemon, which fighting type isn't that good right now, but Gmax Rapid Flow is pretty still good. You got the quick shooting Inteleon to to get some pig damage going as well, where you can like clean up knockouts that you've already punched something with a Charizard. We saw Tor do that in the mirror match, or not mirror match, but like up against a Charizard deck, get a punch with the Charizard, go into the quick shooting Yoga Loop a turn or two later to kind of like effectively one hit KO the Charizard. Um, you got like a ton of different support Pokemon in here. Obviously, you got the Lumineon, the Squawkabilly, the Rotom, the Jirachi, the Manaphy, the Mew, the Skwovet for the draw support, the Pidgeot, and the B-Barrel, one of each. And then there's like the cheeky win condition with the Mawile that you can utilize against Gardevoir. You can utilize it against Mirror Match. And then you can even like set up for some weird KOs with your Charizard where you like trap something for a turn and then you're going to do plus 90 damage to it. And then your Charizard one hit KOs on the following turn.
Yep.
And then it just, yeah, try to fit as much in the supporter department as possible as well, right? A ton of one of supporters. The only two of supporter is the Iono, but it has two PAL pads, so it has like multiple uses out of every supporter. And between like that, even though there's like low counts of everything, has the heavy ball and the Peonia to be able to access the prize cards, to actually be able to execute some of these strategies, not as consistently as other decks can by playing higher counts of the cards, but it still gives you like a pretty good shot at being able to execute your game plan. So yeah, at the core of it is at the core of it, it is a Charizard deck, right?
Yeah. Yep, yep.
Because even though you only have one B-Barrel or one Pidgeot, if you get turn 2 Candy Charizard, that's gonna tide you over for a couple turns no matter what, and get you into position to utilize some of these less consistent options. So yeah, the Charizard really is what enables this whole deck to have time, basically. It's like no deck can really deal with your first Charizard immediately, so you have a ton of time to kind of work with to pull off some of these cuter game plans as the game progresses, but did come up short in the top four to Owen against the Mew matchup, which I actually think kind of makes sense to be honest. The Fusion Mew in general is DT Mew is the most consistent deck in the format. Fusion Mew is probably not too far behind. This deck definitely lacks a little bit of consistency and aggression. So even though it is a Mew deck, and generally Charizard is really good against Fusion Mew, I mean, there's only two Charmander in this list, stuff like that. Like, there's going to be a lot
Yep,
of things that the more aggressive decks like Owen's deck could definitely have exploited. So I
yep.
wasn't surprised to see Owen walk away with the dub, although we didn't get that. I would have loved to have seen that match on stream, to be honest. But
Yeah, it's kind of a tough call, honestly. We don't ever really like to show the same side of the bracket
well,
twice in a
no, yeah,
row
I think it
because
was
you run
after
the
we
risk of
saw.
streaming someone 3 times. I think, like, it makes sense to stream Tord in top 8. Everyone wants to see his deck. It's the matchup that's probably gonna take the longest anyway because he's playing against control, so it's like if you don't stream that match, you're gonna
Yeah,
be having a lot of dead air, which nobody wants, right? So,
yeah,
I
I
think it
think,
made
but that
sense
one's
to choose
a
that match, of course, but then, man, Owen versus Tord would have been so sick to watch.
yeah. The Tord versus Control match seems a little bit iffy to have put on stream. I didn't quite know how the matchup should play out, to be honest. And because it was Pidgeot Control, I think it was a pretty close matchup
It ended up being a really
overall.
interesting game.
Yeah, I think there was a couple blunders on Alessandro's side. Was playing like was trying to get way too cute with Radiant Charizard at the end, and could have just like literally started milling with Chi Yu on like 4 turns before the game ended, and that would have put Tord
Mhm.
in a really awkward spot where if any good card is milled, the game just literally ends from the Chi Yu. But also Tord had no way to one hit KO a Chi Yu. So the Chi Yu could have sat there and penny looped for like 4 turns in a row, I believe,
Yeah.
and then milled 8 cards and probably hit a good card that makes just Tord literally instantly lose the game. So yeah, it was an interesting set because it was the Pidgeot control. I think if it's not Pidgeot control, then Tord just wins because Tord has access to Turo plus 2 pal pads. So I think that's enough to like fend off the counter catcher onslaught. Also, the Thornton can be useful as well because you can Thornton a basic Pokemon into a relevant attacker. But honestly, maybe it wouldn't be enough to be honest. I'm actually not sure, but it's a really
So,
interesting game in the end.
I think there's some comparisons that can be made between this deck and then another deck that Tord, made, popularized, and that is the Urshifu Moltres deck from
Yeah,
EUIC a couple of years ago. Um, and there's also the
deck was also
discussion
pretty
going on
wild.
online this week about like who the best deck builders are in the game, right? And you look at a pile of cards like this, and it's like, I mean, every card obviously has like its purpose, its place. Everything has a
Yeah, yeah.
reason for being in here, right? But it's like, I mean, this looks like a deck that you might would look at of someone who started playing the game last week, you know? And you would
Mhm.
have to tell them, "Oh, I mean, listen, like Urshifu and Charizard, they are like cool Pokemon. They don't really synergize super well together. I don't know that I would necessarily choose to play
Combine
both of them in
them.
the same deck, you know?" But like
Yeah.
here we see the game's best player finding a way to make all this work. I mean, is this deck I mean, I guess first off, like, is this a good deck? Like, should people consider put time into this? Play this deck for these last couple of regionals here in this format? Um,
Probably not.
Probably not to
Well,
both.
what both what?
Like, the one question was, is it a good deck? And the other one is, should people put time into it?
The deck is probably fine. It definitely I'm sure towards win percentage was definitely, um, inflated throughout the tournament just because people had no idea what the heck is going on, right? So now that the cat's out of the bag, a lot people are gonna be able to play a lot more strategically against this deck, whereas they wouldn't have been able to before. So a lot of the potential success for a deck like this, and even like the Urshifu deck to begin with, the Urshifu deck just ended up being like really, really good overall, like the Urshifu Moltres deck.
Yeah,
Um, but this deck I think is definitely a little bit more fragile. Because in that format, it was like a two deck format. It was Arceus decks and Mew decks, I think. So you had the Urshifu for the Arceus decks, and then you just
yep,
had the dark stuff for the other deck. So this is basically just trying to be an Urshifu deck that had the dark package in there to be able to deal with Mew. The other deck, yeah, I would say I mean I would it's not something I would recommend, but it's a cool deck. It's definitely not a bad deck. There's a lot. The biggest thing is there's so much to learn with the deck. Like it's like I don't know how many people have enough time to play enough games with this deck to actually put themselves in a position where it makes sense for them to actually play the deck. The answer is probably not very many people. So that's why I don't recommend it. But the deck is probably solid overall. It definitely gets quite a bit worse moving forward because people just know the things that the deck does and doesn't have. Because I'm sure there was quite a few wins that Toward, probably got just because the opponent had no idea what was going on. Seemingly, there's everything in there, and there's probably a lot of situations where the opponent didn't think there was like the second PAL pad to recover the third Turo or something like that,
yeah.
and that just leads to a victory out of nowhere.
The
So
Mawile.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
it's like, okay, my
exactly,
opponent's playing Inteleon and Urshifu. Oh, there's a Metacham in here too, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. So it definitely becomes way less powerful moving forward because of that. But it doesn't mean like I mean if this got like top 8 and uh, Latin America or in Brazil this weekend, I wouldn't be like that surprised or anything because the deck is still just good, right? Like it's just a bunch of good cards, right? You have less you have less of some good cards for more of a bunch of different good cards. This is what I always talk about as far as deck building goes. There's like two things that with deck building that matter. There's consistency and there's power. Power is options and consistency is like more of the same stuff. So the most consistent deck ever is 15 4-ofs and the most powerful deck ever is 61 ofs, right? But neither of those are good decks of Pokemon generally. If anything, the 15 4-ofs is more likely a good deck, or the 16 4-ofs is more likely no, 15 fours is more likely a good deck than the 61 ofs. But usually it's somewhere in the middle of that like spectrum of two different ways you could build a deck that is the best way to build a deck is between the most powerful version of the deck and the most consistent version of the deck. Somewhere in between is the best way to play like any archetype of a deck, right? Um, so it's just all about that balance of like playing good cards to have good options, and then not playing too many useless cards, even if like the option can be cool in some scenarios. It has to be effectively good, consistently enough to want to play it. But that's what you kind of get, and this definitely leans more towards the power that is possible, right? But you are definitely sacrificing on the consistency somewhat, right?
yeah, yeah.
You're
And
not gonna be
that,
able to you're not gonna be able to chain Charizards back to back as much as a Pidgeot Charizard deck, but when you got like the access to potentially the quick shooting thing or the Urshifu thing, can that make up often enough for the lack of that next Charizard or something like that?
yeah. And then, I mean, you had, like, going into top 4, Owen's a great player. The Mew deck is something that can really capitalize on, inconsistent decks, right? And then
Less
also Owen
aggressive,
said
yeah.
in, like, his interview, like, he knew what Torch 60 was because Tord had been on stream, and he had a
Yeah,
friend
and
who, like,
someone
had
had
watched it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
like
but the 60 was tweeted out, like, after day 1. Like,
yeah.
someone tweeted out the exact like, watched the stream, tweeted out the 60. Yeah, so it's out there, for people to look at it and potentially take advantage of.
So, like you said, like, once the cat's out of the bag, uh, it feels like a little bit weaker. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts kind of on that discussion? Because I did see that come up a little bit, right?
What?
The fact that Tord's deck was just out there after day 1, right?
I mean, that's part of being if you want it like, it's, like, not, like there's no like, what do you mean? Like, what were the points people
That
were
it's
bringing
like
up? Like
a disadvantage to
yeah,
him
it is a
because
disadvantage.
yeah,
Well, then, I mean, he better not be the best player in the world then. Like, you can't have both. Like,
yeah, yeah.
it's not like a thing. Like, I tell this to people who, like, are, uh, coming up or maybe I mentioned on stream the other
Maybe
day. It
less
was
so that
like
it's a disadvantage, but more so that it, like, it's not as it should be, like, it compromises, like, the integrity of the competition, right? Like, the fact that, an advantage that would be afforded to everybody else, Tord doesn't have, right?
yeah, of course. But, like, that is the but that's not I don't think it's, like it just is part of the ecosystem of a competition, kind of, right? Like people are going to be more interested in what is on stream and have more information about what is on stream. And there needs to be a stream, right? Because there needs to be a way to put the competition out there. And it is possible for or it is always disadvantageous to be on stream, right? It doesn't matter who you are, but it's going to be more disadvantageous to be on stream when you're Tord. But like Tord, you can't have it both ways. Tord can't want to be the best player in the game and want to succeed in Pokemon, and then also um, not have and not be on stream and not have his list get out there, especially with like a deck like this. Like you can't
Yeah,
have it both ways, just one way or the other.
and I'm sure
He
Tord
can just he
understands
can
this, right? Like, and
yeah,
is
I think
okay with
Tord
yeah.
knows. He could literally scoop the first 2 rounds of every tournament if he wanted to and not get on stream day 1, and then only maybe get on stream day 2, like, he
How
could
they
do
stream
that
him
if
on
he
the winning
wanted
end,
to,
buddy.
but oh, that's true. I'll just catch him on the winning end. There's no escape, there's no escape.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's just, like, one of
Or
those things where
he has to go 6-2-1. He has to ID in the last round. Start
oh, there we
0-2.
go, there we
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
Then you get to the yeah, then you ID in, so you don't actually ever get put on stream for the winning in,
And then
and
people
then in
don't have
day
enough
2
time to concoct your, list from the stream.
yeah, and then because in day 2, you're coming from the bottom up, they wanna put you on stream until maybe they win into top 8, and once you've achieved top 8, it's like, "Okay, everyone can know my deck list, I'm in top 8, I'm okay with that. I made another top 8," but, yeah, just one of those things where you can't have it both ways, you have to pick. It's not really I don't think there's any, like, discussion to be had there.
Let's go back to the tournament because there was another unique deck here in the top 4. It was Christian with the Chien-Pao Excalibur, and it is just Owen's list. The one change being the Collect Frigi. A lot of people played this to Utrecht, right? It even got third place in Phil. We talked about this last week.
Yeah,
That this list got top 4 in the Philippines Regional League. Um, yeah, is this
we're in
just
the
the way to
collective.
play Chien-Pao right now?
Maybe, but I saw Kieran, who is a avid,
Chien-Pao
Axe fan,
Enjoyer.
Chien-Pao enjoyer, say that the other Frigibax is actually the optimal Frigibax. So, I don't know, I guess that's the only thing left up for discussion about this deck, to be honest. Maybe this might just be the 60, and then the question becomes, which Frigibax? Maybe the only question to still answer about Chien-Pao Excalibur is which Frigibax do you play? Because yeah, I think I saw Kieran tweet it out.
I think I saw
Actually,
Owen say that he didn't even know for sure which one was best.
yeah, that's possible as well.
Oh, he did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because he had a student get top 4 with the deck.
Yeah, and
And
they
he
were playing
said,
the
"Also,
51.
honestly not sure anymore which Frigi is correct."
Yeah, I think I've never attacked with the 50 damage one. It's kinda cool because you can KO, like, a Shiny Arcana with it,
I've done 10
theoretically.
with it. I've done 10 with it to KO a Screamtail.
There we go. But honestly, the amount of like, when you open being able to collect for 1 card sounds pretty sick when you open the collect Frigi. Like, every time I've opened the 70 HP one, I wish I would have loved to have collected for 1 card,
Yeah.
right? Is that 1 card if that 1 card just like an Ultra Ball or something, that's huge. Like, well,
I
if it's
mean,
like
it does
to
have
use
to be
your
kind of
top
a
deck.
specific situation, right? Because it has to be opening it going second, right? Which is
Yeah, yeah, of course.
50% of the games that you open it, right?
Yeah, which is already a small number, I guess, to begin with.
Yeah.
And also, there's an argument to just play another 60, so you could just retreat the
And
thing into a
also some
Chien Pao.
percentage of those games you won't even have an energy in your hand, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, of course. There's some factors in there for sure.
Mhm.
And yeah, yeah, yeah. The other, yeah. So I guess like the last thing decides which Frigi is best, and there is like some metas where it's correct to just play 360s because there's no real threat of Sableye. But I guess that's not really a thing right now because of Tina. So it's always correct to have a 70 HP Frigi. The question is just which one I guess is still correct. The only question, last question about Chien Pao. But yeah, the Chien Pao did it. Back to back top eights. It's kind of been a deck, probably one of the I don't know most. Would it be fair to say this is like the most disrespected meta deck? Like, the amount of people the way people talk about Chien-Pao, like, they said it's a terrible deck. Like, even when people, like, talk about Miraidon or, like, Roy and Moon, I feel like those are also, like, 2 decks that sometimes people bring up and just call but, like, even those are, like there's, like, they're not as good as playing something else, but, like, people are, Chien-Pao's just bad. But,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I
um,
definitely see plenty of that, right? I think
yeah,
people
more
just,
so than any deck.
people cling to uh like, the times where they use Pokestop and, like, mill, triple Irida, both Baxcalibur, like, people just those things, like, just stick out in their mind, but then also, like, just as many times as you have done that, you have Pokestopped for
Couple
Nestball
items.
Superior and or, Super Rod, right? Like, that
Yeah.
has happened as well. Um,
One thing that people don't understand with Pokemon, and this actually goes back to I think Single Strike Lugia, where people hated the idea of flipping coins.
yeah,
Every deck has RNG. They just express it in different ways. And like it's almost like the physicality that Pokestop and flipping coins of an RNG expression just like turns people off. But it's no different than going to use Refinement Curlia and whiffing the card you need. It's the same thing. The RNG is just expressed in a different way,
yeah.
right?
I
So
remember
that's like
it.
really one big thing you just want to get over as like a hurdle that probably like holds you back. If that's the way you view the game, is that you hate flipping coins, and you hate Pokestop. If that's how you view the game because they're more RNG based or whatever, it's the same RNG. Every deck just like expresses its RNG differently. And if you can get over that mental hurdle and just be like, I just want to play the deck that's the best, whether it's flipping coins or using Pokestop or doing neither, that's where you want to be.
Yeah, at LAIC where we played, Chien Pao, I remember, like, every single time I used Pokestop, and I mean, it was, like, every single one of my opponents, whenever I used Pokestop and, like, discarded even just, like, an Irida, I discarded an Irida. It's like, "Alright, I don't love that, but it's whatever." Like, I wasn't even thinking about it, right? I was looking at,
Yeah,
like it's just, like, a side effect of playing the deck, right? I'm gonna
yeah.
discard an Irida sometimes. Every single time my opponent was like, "Oh, dude, classic Chien Pao," or like, "Oh, man, that sucks for you. So sorry that that happened." It's like, I'm not gonna just get triple superior every single time I use this thing, That's
Yeah,
just not
those situations are like, "Listen, bro, if you wanna pretend I'm drawing perfectly and just concede, we can do that." Like, if that's like, if you feel that bad about it, let's just pretend I do perfectly, pack up your cards.
Yeah, it was funny.
Um, but yeah, that is always funny. Yeah, but it's definitely like a yeah, this something to keep in mind. It's like RNG with every single deck is just expressed differently. And yeah, like the physicality of like a Pokestop or like the flipping of a coin with coin flip cards just like turns people off, but it's just like a mental hurdle to get over. And then once you get over it, you'll just become a better player. So if you're looking to be improve.
Looking at the rest of the top 8 here, we do have 2 Charizards, we've got
Was
a
it
Control, and then we've got the Giratina Lost Zone box, but
yeah.
maybe the more interesting thing here is that one of these Charizards was actually I think it was Bali here, right? Was
No, I think
the
Oscar. Oh no, it was Ball. It was Ball. I was gonna say it was Oscar, but it was actually Ball. You're
I
right.
believe so, yeah, Bali
The
was the
Bibzard.
Bibarel Zard, the Bibzard, the Evozard. What do we think of this?
Yeah, I mean it's been a while since we've seen the Bibzard. Actually, yeah, it's been a really long time. When was the last time we even saw a Bibzard in top 8 or like a non
Yeah,
Pidgeysard in
like,
top 8?
pretty soon after LAIC, really.
Yeah, there was a
I
couple
think
European.
that
There was
that
like a Lost Zone
Australian
Zard.
regionals the week after LAIC, I think.
Yeah, there was a Lost Zone Zard that like made top 8 at a European event not too long after LAIC.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the Evo Zard. I don't know what to, I mean, honestly, I just don't know what to think about it. Like it is. Um, I haven't even like fully fleshed out my opinions on this deck's matchups compared to like Pidgeysard, but like I don't know if it has like a better um Tina matchup even. I think you do have a better Roaring Moon matchup and Miraidon matchup because you don't have like the two prizes sitting on the bench. And you see this list specifically, there's literally no two prize Pokemon in here besides the Charizard. No
Yeah,
Rotom,
no Forest
no
Seal
Luminion.
Stone. Yep.
Yeah. Just trying to be as straightforward based around Zard. And we actually saw a list kind of like this get uh top 4 at the Champions League, the most recent Champions League, where it was just Bib Zard, no Luminion, no Rotom, no Pidgeot, no Force Seal Stone. Just how many Artisan are in here actually? It's cut off at the bottom. Is it 2 or 3?
It's 2.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think like we see Bibzar doing really really well in Japan lately. So this might be a tell of the future. I think one matchup where this deck comes up really short is the mirror match if they're playing Pidgeot, but Zard was not as popular this tournament, so that's definitely like probably one of the reasons to maybe like lean on Bibzard a little bit more, as if Zard's not as popular. I would say.
And then, yeah, we did have one other Charizard, the Lost Tina, and the Control. There was no Gardevoir in top 8, but if we scroll down just a little bit, There was 3 right outside top 8. James Cox, David, and Arthur here all getting ninth, 10th, and
Yeah,
11th respectively with the
and they
Guardian
all
buff.
had 34 match points.
Yeah.
There's 5 players with 34 match points. 2 of them made it, and none of them were the Guard 4 players.
The Guardy players stand together in solidarity
Yeah.
outside of top right on the bubble.
Yeah. It was pretty funny, to be honest. And James actually was on a winning in. Had 34 match points. Probably wanted to ID, but played against Owen. Owen beat
Mm,
James, and then James bubbled out at the or ended with the 34 and did not make the cut.
tough.
Is this James's list?
This is James's list. The
Is
double
it the same
Avery.
list? Is it the same list that he played at? Because he had double Avery at the last one. Might be the exact same 60. You scroll down.
Oh,
Scroll
yeah,
down. Scroll
sorry,
down.
sorry,
Scroll down.
I was just looking
You're
at
good.
it. Yeah, it wa it's
Liverpool,
there's 3
Dortmund. Yeah,
limitless results for this list, and it is all him.
all James. Still rocking the double Avery.
No Jirachi is maybe the most, I think, surprising thing to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that either, though, to be honest. Like, one of its best matchups is the Tina, but um, you still beat it without it. I think the Cresselia is more important, but then the
Yeah,
Jirachi is nice as well.
I agree,
Very good for
Cresselia.
the mirror match. Very good for the mirror match, to be honest.
All of
The
these
Averys.
lists, something to note, all 3 of these
Oh, do they all
lists,
have Averys?
they all had 2 Avery, yep.
Oh, wow. Okay, so people are on that Avery train. I mean, it's really good in the mirror match. Really good against Chi and Pao as well, which is maybe the biggest reason that we see people. We see the other two players outside of James playing it because James has been playing it for a while.
Mhm.
But yeah, really good against Chi and Pao as well. The Averys are so, and one is like okay, but it's like really hard to find. Like, but playing two, you're gonna get there more often than not and be able to put together like, a big combo against a Chi and Pao or a mirror match. Yeah, really ridiculously strong in the mirror, which makes sense as well because mirror match has been so successful lately, or guard for I should say in general.
Any other, standout decks here in top 32, day 2 that you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't think so. I
I
think
had
that's
one.
okay. Go ahead.
I saw this on Twitter, the one Limitless page debut from this tournament. Did you see this?
No, I did not see this, but the Blastoise making it
No,
in there.
this was the Limitless page debut. Blastoise has
Oh,
had a
Blastoise
Limitless
has been
page,
here? Oh, okay,
but
my bad.
War Turtle has not. War Turtle has not. Yeah, Blastoise, we
Oh,
had
my bad.
someone top 16 in a
Oh, top
Malaysia
16?
regional
Okay.
with it. Yeah, yeah,
Alright,
yeah.
my bad. Blastoise has been placing honestly, Blastoise is not that bad. I played it again recently on one of my streams, for one of my dude streams where I just, like, play viewer decks, like, off meta viewer decks, and I've played Blastoise in the past before, and then I played it again recently on my stream, and, like, it's got a lot of HP, and it hits pretty hard. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
one-hit KO like Charizard's, but Charizard does n even when you're at 1 prize card, Charizard does not one-hit KO you. Like, you're
Yeah.
still chilling, so, yeah. It's like it's one of those decks that I think is, like, almost there. It's, like, almost meta, the Blastoise
What does
is.
it
And
need? What
actually,
does it
I
need?
honestly, maybe the big thing it needs is time or, not time, but people actually putting an effort into it. That could be what it's missing.
All right, Azul, you got 3 weeks or whatever until
Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Also, Miraidon numbers are down. That's actually a big reason, Miraidon. But where's Miraidon at? I don't see him.
That's okay. Guys,
That was a
just a
real
little
reason.
insider. Not really an insider, but I just know for like based on what we talked about on the podcast last week, dude,
Mm.
Azul definitely wants to play Miraidon for
That was pretty
Vancouver.
I like
I
Miraidon.
can tell. Dude, you made a YouTube video about it, man. Azul wants to play Miraidon so bad. I can tell.
I always have, like, one deck in my mind, like, meta deck that I'm kinda, like, cooking a little bit. Miraidon was kinda the one. I don't really have any more right now in my headspace. Well, Charizard actually has been the
Well,
recent one
I've got one that
that
you
I'm trying
should
to
get in
cook
your
up.
headspace.
Blastoise, man, there it is. 330 -30 with a solid shell.
Yep.
Pretty solid.
Shout outs to Bass Raven for getting the day 2 finish with the Blastoise. Didn't finish super well in day 2, so
Yeah.
things must have fallen apart at some point along the way, but the deck does seem really, really cool. Well, let's go ahead and talk about our predictions, recap our predictions from last week. We said, would Mew win its third EU major of the season? For some
I
reason, I said no. Why did I say no?
I don't know, Chip. I don't know. You have to believe.
Azul said
Uh,
yes, and Azul is correct. Mew with the third EU dub of the season.
yeah, and then, Chip, you got let down a little bit this and let down a little bit in this one, but maybe it's just, like, karma for not believing long enough. We, predicted which deck will place higher in the tournament, Chi and Power Golden Go, the finals of the last European major. I predicted Chi and Pow because it's a good deck. Chip predicted the Goldingus, and Chi and Pow did get there. What was the highest placing? Oh,
Yele
no.
with is it
Oh, there
Yele?
was
Is
one.
that how you say his name right?
Yella, I think.
Yella? Yeah,
Yeah.
he got top 64 with it.
Okay, so he ran it back. Not quite the same showing as the last one, but if you're gonna pick one to make the finals at, I think you'd pick a regional over a special event, to be honest. So it's probably a good trade off there. But yeah, still made day two with it. So was Yellow the only one again? Because Yellow was the only one last time. Yep, the only Golden Go
Yeah.
in day two once
Dude,
again.
freaking Reggie's did better than Golden Go at this tournament.
Oh yeah,
Reggie's!
Reggie's got 36. I guess that would have been a deck we could have shouted out there.
We can talk about it real quick. Shout outs
Yeah,
to
sure.
Chris.
Show it off real fast.
Here it is.
Yeah, Reggie's is, and I like this build, to be honest. I like the heavy vessel build. This is the way I was kind of cooking the deck initially on Vessel's release. Um,
Dude, you were really hype on this deck whenever
I
Vessel came out.
was, and it
Yeah.
just, yeah, it didn't quite pay off, but it's definitely solid. But like, you come up really short into quite a few matchups. Like Guardy, you can't want to KO a Guardy. You can't want to KO a Charizard. Like, if they have a Turo or a Collapse to just heal the damage you just did, you just fall behind in the prize trade, and then things just kind of,
Yeah, Charizard has to be terrible.
yeah, you got to pull off like turn one attacks with this deck to like really like you got to push ahead as soon as possible. But it's cool to
What
see
if
it
you
make.
played, like, 4 TM Devo?
It was cool to see it make like a decent run this time. Like not quite top 32. Got that 36th place, but at least it didn't just like. There's like a lot of like bad decks that like make day two, and it's like, and they're in the top. They're in the bottom 20 decks that are in day two, 20 players, right? Because like the overall the deck is just not that good. Doesn't matter how good of a list it is, or if you have like the optimal 60 for that archetype, or how well you play. If a deck's not good enough, it's not good enough. We see the Reggies, pushing a little bit out of that. I guess bad deck placement, bad deck bracket. 30 seconds is definitely a little bit better than we would normally expect from like the Reggies, even when it makes day two.
And then we had one more prediction, and that was what Gardevoir's meta share percentage would be, and I think some of this got a little messed up, right, from what you were talking about with,
The
like, people
unclassified,
submitting
bro.
lists. Yeah, yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, we should have next special event we predict for meta percentage. We'll have to keep that in mind. The unclassified is going to come in strong. So
but
it's
yeah,
like you should
so
take your prediction, like take it by like minus 1.5% or something.
well, I mean, I will say, Azul predicted 11.8, I predicted 11.1, it was
One,
9, so,
yeah, you were
who's
closer.
closer here,
You were this time, but that still leaves the overall prediction record at a 2-1 victory for myself. Nice try, Chip, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, the unclassified special event cheese got you one prediction victory this time.
Well, let's move on from the Utrecht special event into the latter half of the podcast. But before we do need to take a moment to give a shout out and thank you to our fantastic sponsor, Dragon Shield. Of course, Dragon Shield is a big supporter of us here at the Uncommon Energy podcast, and they make some of the best Pokemon TCG accessories and, just tabletop gaming accessories in general on the market. You can get their sleeves, the binders, the deck boxes. I love the Magic Carpet, which is their card storage boxes. I'm a big fan of those. I use their cube shells as well for my cube, and they do have two new colors out now that you should check out.
They recently dropped the Power and Soul colors. It's a green and a purple.
Nice metallic
Um,
finish on the back of the sleeve.
yeah, definitely a little bit something different than any of their other like sleeves that they have out there. I don't think they have that on like any of the other sleeves like metallic finish. So check that out. You can check out all that at dragonshield.com. And if you do pick anything up, you can use code UEPOD to get yourself 5% off and support us here directly on the podcast. Link, of course, will be in the description. Up next, we got everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. Guess that flavor text. It's my turn to pick a card and read the flavor text on that card to give Chip a chance to guess which Pokemon that card belongs to. And if Chip gets it right without using any lifelines, he'll get 4 points. For each lifeline he uses, he'll get one less point. The lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and then read an attack name. Chip, are you ready?
I am ready. I'm in, let's see, pretty decent lead. You did get a point last week, so shout
I
outs
did.
to you. Congratulations, Azul. And we're actually on a little bit of a streak here. 2 weeks in a row, someone has gotten a point. And that's
Okay.
only the, I guess, fourth, fifth time that's ever happened. So it's happened a decent amount, I guess, that we've gotten back to back points. But never in the history of the podcast have we had 3 weeks in a row of someone getting points. So I'm
All
gonna
right.
make it happen this week, buddy. Come
Let's
on.
keep that streak going. Chip, The flavor text of this week's guess that flavor text is this Pokemon is full of life energy. It continually sheds its skin and grows steadily larger.
Full of life energy, sheds its skin, and grows steadily larger. I mean,
Does that mean we're also all full of life energy, like up
this
until the
sounds like
point that
Xerneas to me,
once we've
almost.
once we've reached our maximum growth, are we out of life energy?
Does Xerneas No, Eviltal's the one that, like, has a cocoon, I think. Does Xerneas kinda have a cocoon? Man, I don't remember.
Xerneas has a Xerneas? Which one is Xerneas?
Xerneas is the okay, so it's not Xerneas, I guess. Maybe it is, dude. Are you throwing me off? No shot. Alright, what set is the card from Azul?
Triumphant.
Alright, well, it's not Xerneas. Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Triumphant. Okay, so let's think to some Gen 2 Pokemon, Gen 1 Pokemon. Triumphant sheds its skin. Let me life energy continuously growing bigger. Could it be Pupitar or Larvitar? One of those potentially. Um, I could use a little more help here. Let me hear the flavor text one more time, Azul.
This Pokemon is full of life energy, continually sheds its skin and grows steadily larger.
All right, what set is the not what set? What stage is the card?
It is a basic
And let me hear an attack name. Go ahead and use them all.
ram.
Ram. Could it be like Dunsparce? Life energy. That just doesn't sound like really anything I can think of. Maybe is it like some sort of grass type Pokemon? I mean, Cocoon would be not Cocoon. It doesn't say Cocoon. Sheds its skin. That makes me think of like a bug or maybe like a snake Pokemon. Could be like an Ekans, maybe. An Ekans with Ram, full of life energy. There's just really nothing tracking for me on this one, to be honest. I don't even remember which of these Pokemon are in that set. I know there is a Heart Gold Soul Silver uh Larvitar. I think there might be an Ekans somewhere in there. Let me just go with Larvitar, Azul. I think there's plenty of Larvitars with the Ram attack. I'm gonna lock that in. Larvitar.
It is not Larvitar Chip.
Ah,
It is Dratini.
Dratini.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
It is kind of like a water eel kind of Pokemon, right?
Yeah, I just don't really think about it uh as full of life energy. Also, like,
Wow.
by the
How would you
way,
think of
look
Ekans
at
as
the
full of life
eyes of this
energy?
Dratini, dude. There's like zero life inside this being. This is honestly kind of disturbing.
What? I think the eyes are fine.
This is an
Oh,
Arita artwork. I don't know, dude. There's
read the scroll down and read the first comment. Now that you said that.
oh my gosh. The art is so creepy. Yeah, dude. I mean, look at every other Dratini. It like looks cute. It's like you can see the like
Yeah.
glistening of the light on its eyes. This one, no, nothing. Just
Wait, there's a little. Well, it's like more lifelike. It's supposed to be more. It looks like more
yeah.
realistic
And
looking,
it's
right?
under the water as well, which I guess there wouldn't be light reflecting off its eyes whenever it's under the water, right?
Yeah, probably not.
Dang, all right. So we couldn't get the 3 weeks in a row,
Nope.
unfortunately.
This is
It's a
for the
bummer.
best though. It's for the best. Keep our streak going of not getting 3 weeks in a row. Because then I'll always be getting some points, but you won't be getting too many points.
This is a good card choice though, Azul, because this could be a good option for the ultra rare Patreon
Yeah, that's a
bonus
good.
card. That could be
That's
a good
true.
one.
That is a good one that we could throw in there. For sure.
All
All right.
right.
Well, we can move on. Up next, we got the City League Watch. We're just gonna go take a look at some of the lists that have been winning tournaments over in Japan. Because I've looked at it the other day. There's been kind of a shift up. Hey, that's a lot of Lost Tina getting dubs all of a sudden. I don't know. We may as well start from the top, see what the Lost Tinas are playing. To be honest,
Yeah, a couple of lost Tinas in here. This first list
the thing I'm
looks
most curious about is like where the stadiums are going to go. I think Sinnoh is going to be like a staple in
yeah,
Lost Tina
Sinnoh
moving
has to
forward.
be the thing. Otherwise, like anything teching a mist energy is going to be really tough, right? You
Yeah,
also don't have to play that many stadiums, right? Stadiums are just kind of inherently kinda clunky cards to play if you play multiple of the same one, right?
Yeah.
Because you can only play 1 stadium a turn,
Well, it depends if
you can't
how
replace one that
many
has the same name, right? So,
depends how
like,
many
Pass the Peak
stadiums are
can
in
be kind of
the
like a pumpy what? A clumpy card.
the thing with something like Pat the Peak, though, if it's sticking, you're probably winning is one thing. Um, the other thing with what you said is, like, playing multiple of a stadium. Depends how many other stadiums are in the format, right?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Which is why I kinda like Paths of the Peak because it feels like it kinda forced a stadium meta. But without Paths of the Peak, like, we see, like, almost no one's playing stadiums anymore,
Yeah,
right? Which you can't really blame them. I was making some lists earlier on stream, and I was like, I guess 0 stadiums. I was like I literally was sitting there questioning. I was like, "Wait, why did I used to run Artisan and Charizard? This card seems terrible. You give it to your opponent." And I was like, "Oh, wait, you need to have a way to bump Paths of the Peak." Like,
yeah.
but that was it. But I kinda liked that. I liked Paths of the Peak forcing this is what I was going back kinda went back to last week or the week before where I kind of felt like Path was like a really healthy card for
Yeah.
the format. And it definitely feels like I kinda miss it, to be honest. I kinda miss Paths
I
of the
think
Peak.
it's, like, one of the more balanced forms of ability lock. Like, I think ability lock is an inherently very strong trait, right?
Yeah, because abilities are very
Um,
good.
but some of them have probably been, like, a little unbalanced. Like, we think about the most successful ability lock cards, Hex Maniac. I mean, that card is just, like, definitely broken, right? You think about
Well,
stuff like
was Hex
Garbotoxin
really that good?
Garbodor, like,
Was
those
Hex really
cards.
that good without expanded? Like, there was Mega Ray that chained it, but that's about it, right?
I mean, I don't
Expanded
think
makes
anything a
everything better.
Night March could spam Hex turn 1 as
That's
well, right?
true,
Like,
that's true.
there didn't you play, like, a triple Hex Night March list whenever Trevenant was a thing, right? Like
So what it was for Triple Hex and it was at Worlds that year, the year that Shintaro won.
yeah.
Well, we kind of sent
It
Pram
was
in as,
Trevenant and
like,
Vileplume, I think.
we sent Pram in as a test subject with Triple Hex, and then we played 2 Hex in day 2. We were like, "Alright, Pram, we think Triple Hex seems okay, go ahead." And then he made it to day 2, and he was like, "Nah, we should probably go 2 Hex." We're like, "Alright, 2 Hex it is then," and then we played 2 Hex.
Yeah.
Um,
What's up with this Espathra deck? Because that's not the first time that we've seen this
yeah, it's
deck
back.
in a tournament. Like, I mean, is this a real thing? Is this a good deck, Azul?
I don't know. Probably not. It beats Charizard, but I don't know if you're beating much else. That's the problem. You see, this list doesn't even have anything like to stop Sableye from running over you. No, only $7.
Yeah, but
That's
I
a
think it
deal.
doesn't have,
Oh,
like,
the
the
new
Japanese
cards.
card prices.
Okay, but those can't be
Well,
that
it has the
expensive.
Espathra in
Yeah, you
there.
got the Espathra.
Espathra is 30 cents? What?
We're good, baby.
24 cents?
See, this is
This
what's
is
so
an
cool about Pokemon is
EX card, man.
you could literally spend. All right, so how much is it going to be it's going to be $10 when you get the Buddy Poffins involved. Buddy Poffins are maybe close to $1 a piece. Is that a
So,
dollar card right there?
here's one thing about this, though, that I will say.
Uh,
I mean, it's great from a player perspective, right?
of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
The majority of people who are buying Pokemon cards, though, do not play the game, right?
Yeah.
And what most people want when they're opening their packs is to open something and then see, like, oh, probably most people just want something that they think is cool. But like a pretty high percentage of people want to open it and be like, I got something that's valuable, right? And it's like, oh, I got an EX card. This is like 1 out of 6 packs or whatever it is, 1 out of 4, 5. I don't even know what the rate is these days.
Mhm.
And then they go look it up and it's like, this card is worth 25 cents. What? Like
But
that's a
that's
feels bad, right?
well, a little bit, but that's kind of just like it feels like that's like forced or like fake interest. Like if you're only interested in for the price of cards, then
Sure.
it's like that's why the collecting thing feels so weird to me. It's because like people are like the kind of the things that people have like I've seen the collector community get into like a hubbub. What's the word I'm looking for? Not hubbub, but get into like a
A
tiff
tizzy,
about, like, the fact that it is so
a
easy to pull
fit.
cards and
Yeah.
that the cards that they're collecting aren't worth as much as they used to be. It's like, why don't you just, like, collect the cards for the love of the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
wanting those cards or those Pokemon, and then whatever they're worth doesn't really matter, right? And if some are worth a lot and some are worth a little now I did talk to that a little bit as well, where I was like, the exclusivity of stuff does kinda make sense for me as far as collecting goes. Like, I wouldn't wanna collect something that anyone could have, um,
Unless it had like immense like
sentimental
personal
value.
sentimental
Yeah,
value
yeah.
to you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But like but the thing I'd be a little bit more worried about with the price point and stuff is like how it probably hurts the card stores, right? These cards are worth like nothing.
Yeah.
So how is that hurting? And that's where I think I wouldn't mind the price of cards increasing is for the sake
I mean,
of
because
making
like
sure
being
card
able
stores
to
can
build a
exist.
competitive deck for like $100. I mean, that's a lot more expensive than like $30, but it's
Yeah,
like reasonable for a premier like playing the Pokemon TCG is like not a cheap hobby, right? Even
yeah,
though the cards are pretty cheap. It can be a cheap hobby if you just play locally or whatever, right?
yeah,
But I don't know, it's tough. I definitely don't want to go back to the days of like paying $100 for a shaman, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah. We don't wanna go there, but if we have to pay a little bit more so
if we
that
had to pay
the
like
game can exist locally and, like,
5 or
card
$6 for an Espathra, right? Like
yeah, like, I think that would be, like, a fair trade-off if we get to if we, like, even out. It feels like we're, like, too far on one side of the spectrum right now of, like, things being too cheap, and that probably does hurt the profits for, like, local card stores to an extent, right? And that's the thing I'm most concerned with is, like, card stores being able to exist and making Pokemon part of their
yeah.
income, right? So if it hurts too much, then if Pokemon does adjust, like, pull rates of stuff and stuff like that to compensate and, like, kinda give back towards the card stores, then I don't think that'd be a bad thing because Pokemon selling all their cards anyway. No matter what, distributors are getting as much as they can, and they're selling it all away. Like, it's all moving. Like, everything is
Yeah.
moving, and as
Yeah.
far as Pokemon stuff goes, but if it, helps out the card stores that much more, I don't think that's a bad trade-off. I think we could take that hit as a community if it doesn't, change the price of cards by that much.
Uh, Back on topic, we can look at some of the other decks. No surprise to see some Charizard here, still some Arctina, Chien-Pao. Lugia still doing pretty decently. A couple of
Yeah.
wins on the last few
Is there
days.
anything cool in any of these lists, or is it
I looked at a
nope?
few of them. A
I think it's a
lot of
big set.
people
Oh,
there. This one had the Noivern. I did remember seeing this the other day.
what does that
Um,
do? What is that for?
it shuts off basic Pokemon. It can't be damaged by basic Pokemon, right? So it's probably for
Chien Pao.
doesn't seem great. Lost Box. I think if you wanna beat Lost Box, you can tech the Flutter Mane pretty reasonably, right?
Yeah.
The Ancient
Yep.
Box deck. Oh,
Oh.
dude. No, 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 no. It's for the Iron Hands deck.
Oh, yeah, the Iron Hands deck.
Yeah, yeah, because that is still a deck that's, like, gotten pretty
That
popular.
honestly yeah, that honestly seems like it is, like, the number 1 deck. Like, not that it's not the best. Maybe it's not the best deck, but it's, like, it's the deck everyone's trying to make sure they can keep up with and beat is the Iron Hands deck.
So that's your answer, because otherwise you do just, like, lose to that deck.
Yeah. Honestly,
One
I don't
thing
even know if that beats it because they could just gust around you a couple times too, potentially. I don't know.
yeah,
Well,
once Counter Touch comes online.
maybe you just go double Noibat and that's it, and then you don't need to set up the Lugia stuff, right? You just need 1 Noivern out
Yeah,
there.
double Noivern probably does just beat that, right?
Yeah, I'd assume so. That could be your answer.
Is what is the
Bat.
I've seen some of the lists that list we just looked at was not a winning list, but I did see a different list recently that also played that Iron Boulder. Does that like hit through all effects or anything like that?
I do not believe it has Shred, no. The Iron Boulder, I think, is for the mirror match.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, but
this
that
does
was like
have Iron
a
Boulder.
yeah, you just, like, you wanna KO them and well, their hands could KO you back, though. It's weird. I don't know what this does.
It
It's
only
here,
plays
though.
one fighting energy as well,
Oh,
so
It's for Arceus decks.
you can
Yeah.
only use the first attack.
Oh.
They only
The
play
one hit
one
KOs
fighting
Arc
energy.
the one hit KOs Arceus V, I guess. Wait, no, how much damage can you make that thing do?
So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
Oh, yeah, you can one hit KO an Arceus with
13,
the first
14.
attack.
Yeah, if you have all your
Yeah.
modifiers, you can KO an Arceus. Yeah, sure, sure.
I think that's what it's for.
Makes
But
sense.
check out that 3rd place list, though, in that one real fast.
We're only
That
supposed to look
looks
at
like
winning lists, buddy. Oh, dude,
hang
you are
on,
just
we're
so
here.
amped for
It's a
this.
future box. I'm just saying, we haven't seen a future box list yet. Just click on it. Alright, we can leave now. That's it. I was just curious, what was going on here. You're the one that clicked into the first
You're right,
non.
you're right, you're right. I did see one other thing I wanted to mention here, a little icon that we don't really see too often here. We see the Golden Go, we don't see the
Oh,
Dunsparce.
there he
Oh,
is!
snap.
Dude, and actually, I just figured out that the Dunsparce has free retreat. You can get to that Call for Family on
Oh,
the Gimme Ghoul off the rip.
that's pretty cool. There is also a Dunsparce that has, like, a search for a Pokemon attack, I think that's in the formats.
Yeah.
But
Oh, wait,
this
no,
that probably
that
is better,
that's the other
right?
one. The free retreat, yeah, the free retreat is definitely better.
Yeah.
I'm trying to let my Dunny hang out in the active and get knocked out. That's
Yeah, there's a
unreasonable.
find a friend Dunsparce in the format.
And it turns out Dunsparce has no friends and he belongs on the bench. So,
So he's
lady,
running away.
yeah, so he's running away.
That's a pretty cool artwork too. Look at this guy burrowing down.
Yeah.
But yeah, this
Nice.
is a really interesting card. Yeah, I think that's something that we'll see like pop up in some kind of like rogue decks every
Hold
once in a
on.
while. What's up?
Go. well, let's read the card for the people who are listening here.
Oh,
Someone who
sorry,
doesn't
yeah,
know.
so we've got the
Yeah.
Dunsparce, stage 1 colorless Pokemon. It has the ability Runaway Draw. Once during your turn, you may draw 3 cards, and then you shuffle this Pokemon and all attached cards back into your deck.
Yeah, that's something that, like, I definitely need to do way more about is I have to recognize people. A lot of people are listening, so we gotta, like, describe
Yes.
the
Yeah, yeah, we do have a lot
sorry,
of people
we're
listening.
getting there. How long have we had the podcast for? Over a year? Is it 2 years?
Next is episode 100, buddy.
Almost 2 years. We're coming up on 2 years.
Yeah.
Alright, it's alright. Year 3, the description,
Yeah, this
s
month sometime is probably 2 years, actually.
what is the word to, like, the descriptory skills willing like, what is that word?
Our first episode or this wasn't even an episode.
Is the
Our
trailer.
first episode, yeah, it was the trailer, March 15th, so 9 days will be our
We're getting
2-year
close.
anniversary.
And we only got 2K views on that?
Yeah, man.
Heck?
Yeah, dude. Do you remember what happened our first episode? So, like, we wanted to release it before the first regionals whenever tournaments came back. We did that, Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Um, and then at Salt Lake City, a kid got DQ'd and we got our first ever clickbait, baby. Let's go. A player was disqualified, and then that video did 17K views.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It was huge, baby, huge. Yeah, any other decks you want to look at here
I
in
the
the City
the
League watch?
Goodra. You scroll down a little bit, there's the Goodra, Lost Goodra. Take a look at that.
Missed that.
Up a
Let's
little
see.
higher. Where'd it go? It's up higher. I think you scrolled past it, actually.
I'm
There
flying,
we
buddy,
go.
flying. Oh, they got the Bundy?
Every Lost on deck has the bundle right now. The Fluttermanes are out there.
Oh, right.
The Goodra list still hasn't changed. Like, this is what people have been play it's the Zamazenta, Sableye, Cram, Goodra stuff. Like, this is like
Yeah, it's
this
the
has been
same
Goodra
deck.
for forever now. It's the
You
same
do
deck.
get the mist energy, which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah. No, there's some upgrades. Like, yeah, obviously the list changes a little bit, but, like, it's nothing I feel like every time I see a Goodra list, it's like this. This is
Yeah.
it. The
Got the
Roxanne,
Crisis Punch in
Artisans.
there.
Yeah, the TM Crisis Punch, TM Devo for the Charizard matchup, probably. You got the Mists. You need the bundle for the Flutter Mane. So got some new upgrades for sure. And it's rocking that Prime Catcher.
I gotta send this to one of the production guys at Pokemon. He loves Goodra, man.
It gets
Yes.
better for Shintaro was playing Arceus Gudra at Champions League. So definitely improves, I would say, for sure. Does it improve enough to warrant playing it? Not sure about that yet, but definitely improves for sure. Gudra's back. I think
Post rotation.
Shintaro was playing like Arceus Gudra with had a Vulpix in there, so
Yeah,
for
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
Charizard
yeah.
matchup.
Yeah. Arceus on the real big come up. That was another deck, by the way. We were talking earlier about like best decks of all time, best deck archetypes.
Arceus is probably up there.
Arceus is pretty decently up there,
Yeah, it's not
and
done yet either. It's not
it's
done.
not done yet. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it
I messaged this this production guy the list, and I said post rotation Gudra with the eyes emoji, and he just replied, "Well, would you look at that?"
All right. Well, yeah, that's what's been winning over in Japan, but we're gonna have a big major tournament this weekend in the standard format. The Goiania. I don't quite know how to
Boyan,
pronounce Goiania Regional Championships this weekend. There's not been a major tournament in Latin America since LAIC, but that's
kind of
like
crazy.
that's the IC. This is only their second like regionals this season, regional slash special event. So
Yeah, they
obviously the
have.
IC is a major tournament in Latin America, but it's like it's not one of their like regional majors. This is their second major, non-IC major this season. So they've really and there's only like one other on the schedule, I think. Could be wrong on that.
Yeah, yeah, they have been massively getting, left in the dust when it comes to
Ooh, they got
tournaments
two
so
more.
far. So, yeah, glad to see they're
Almost.
getting some more tournaments. Hopefully, there will be more coming. I have no clue. Would love to see them get more tournaments down there,
This
because
might be it to be honest, because they
there's
had
such
like the one
a
update.
well, maybe I don't know, man. They're gonna have a hard time getting enough Worlds invites, really.
That's possible. Well, how
That's not
many
enough
points do they need?
tournaments.
250? Is it 250 or more? Or
Let
is it
me
350? It's
I think it's
350,
I
I
thought it
think.
was 350, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can get it from locals technically then, but yeah, they might be struggling. Honestly, I think the Latin American scene, if they were given more support, could be huge. I think it could
Oh,
rival Europe
yeah,
for sure.
I think Latin
Although
America.
Europe is kind of rivaling North America, to be honest. So like, But if they had more support in Latin America tournaments, like specifically Brazil, I think definitely, right? Like that's like where the main like the major majority of the player base is. Um, if they had more support, more major events, I don't know what else is going on there as far as locals goes, but I think they could be yeah, we could be seeing a lot more numbers from them at their regionals and stuff, given the more events and bigger events. I
Yeah.
was kind of ashamed to see, to be honest, because everywhere else is kind of feels like it's well, especially in North America, it's kind of flourishing. Oceania or like Australia specifically has kind of had to take a back seat this season, unfortunately. But even in Europe, the tournament organizers are starting to do better. I feel like and we're seeing like the adjustment mid-season for Europe as well, where they're like bigger caps, right? It's like mid-season. It's like all right, this needs to change, and it would be great to see it this season. We're seeing it this season, but yeah, Latin America is still being held back, I think, from their potential as far as how big the game could be there, which would be
What's
really cool to see.
happening what's happening with South Africa, man? South Africa got several tournaments at the end of last season. I haven't
Oh, did
heard
they really?
anything about what's going on. Yeah, there was like 2 there was the Cape Town special event,
Oh, yeah,
the
that's right.
Johannesburg special
Mhm.
event. I mean, there's definitely like a solid South African Pokemon community. And I was kind of thinking that was like a region that was going to like start to get a little bit more support just kind of based on the fact that they got more support last year than they had ever had before, right? And we
Now they
just
had
haven't heard
nothing.
anything about what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, hopefully they get something soon. Yeah, I don't know. The game is just like it's so crazy. Like TPCI, it's like I think TPCI has been doing pretty good in North America, and obviously they don't have as much control over stuff in Europe because Europe is like I feel like they're um I don't know tournament center and stuff, whatever the tournament organizers over there. But like I feel like TPCI does need to step up a little bit and maybe put the pressure on some of these tournament organizers to like get stuff into gear or find someone else who will. To be honest, like I don't think that'd be a bad thing because I think the game is, like, so primed to be so much bigger than it currently is,
Yeah.
and it's being held back by tournament organizers basically everywhere besides North America. Like, North America is the only one who's, like, reaching, like, its full potential.
I think
Um,
that they did just open an office recently in Mexico City. TVCI did. So, I mean, that's not Brazil, right? But,
yeah,
they're like opening up. Yeah, theoretically, like that's more like,
expanding.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, those things probably happen, right? I mean, they've got the office currently in Bellevue, and they've got the office in London, right?
Yeah.
Expanding down to Mexico City. Nothing happens overnight, right? But I
Yeah,
agree with
yeah.
you. They definitely it's definitely one of the biggest areas that they are faltering right now.
Yeah, because yeah, it's just, like, the players are there. The players
Yeah,
exist,
people
but
want yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're not getting an outlet or anything to, like, play. I expect like, it feels so bad for the or for the Latin American players. They've had 1 major there, besides the IC, of course, and it would, like, insta-capped, and they only had 400 Masters Division players, right? I don't even know what the number is for this one. Can I register for this one still? I can go check, right?
For which one?
Guyana.
Guyana? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
can go check.
I'm gonna see if I can register for that. I don't know if they've capped. I assume they've capped, but maybe they haven't.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know where in the country we talked about this a couple weeks ago, I feel like, on the podcast, like, where in the country Guyana is,
We
'cause
looked it up, I think,
that
on
does
the
have a, impact, I think, because but I think we did determine it was a pretty big city, but, yeah, anyway, this is the first tournament for the Latin American players since LAIC. They're only 2nd regionals of the year. And at that last regionals, that's when the world was introduced to Arvinzard, right? It was something
yeah.
that people had not figured out the best way to play Charizard just yet. And then, that group of Brazilian players showed it to us. William Esvito ended up getting the win with the deck. Um, do you think that we're going to get anything shown here from the players? Just a few weeks left in the
I
format
mean,
now, but, they've been cooking since
they've had a lot of
LAIC, right?
yeah, they've had a lot of time to cook for
They're
sure.
marinating down there.
Yeah, so, yeah, we'll see if they come up with anything spicy. I feel like the format's a little bit played out, for sure, but Tor did just come at us with, like, whatever that was, right? So there definitely is, like there's still it shows there's still some room for creativity. Of course, like, a lot of these players, especially the top players, are trying to not just be creative, but be successful, right? And that's where it gets hard to actually come up with something that is creative, then also has the potential for success, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something pop up. Okay, yeah, the tournament is sold out as I assumed it would be. So yeah, I don't know if we'll see anything too crazy. It almost feels like honestly, I don't know how long Azevedo and like Petrucci, Pedro Petrucci, and whoever else they work with have been working together. But it feels like this could become kind of like the Australia situation, where there is like that really dominant group of players that is kind of, you know, they are the players from Latin America right now to like be looking at, and like I'm interested to watch that group of players kind of progression in their region and see how many wins they actually rack up.
Yeah.
Because we saw like a similar thing in Australia where it was
I mean,
like
they're kind of
Ellie Miller, Brent.
experiencing what you guys experienced with DDG back in, like, 2018, right?
Yeah,
You know, the group
yeah,
of players dominating their region because they were just putting in the work that no one else in their region was doing, right?
yep, yeah,
And but, like,
definitely.
now, like, that group doesn't exist in North America and Europe now, right? Because there's such a big player base, right? There's not, like, one dedicated player group that has just, like,
Yeah.
won every single tournament in any of these regions.
Yeah, I think there is still
The
the
potential for
potential for
that.
something like that to exist in Europe and North America, and it is as the player base gets bigger, and almost more so that the tournaments just get bigger, it does become harder to replicate that kind of success,
Yeah.
like we saw in Australia, most recently, and that we do have the potential of seeing here in Latin America as well. Of course, it's really hard for them to do it in Latin America because they have so few tournaments to kind of express their skill. Um, but I think it is still possible. I think the ceiling in Pokemon is really, really high, and I think like towards win or towards top 4, I should say, not towards win, towards top 4 with the deck that he played, kind of continues to showcase the ceiling in Pokemon, how high the ceiling in Pokemon is. And is kind of just waiting for, enough players to step up and want to like push the limits of the game, to see what is truly what the highest potential level of competition is possible in the Pokemon TCG. We haven't reached it. And even if some players like Tord are hitting the ceiling of it, where there's not enough of them to really progress what could come after that. Once we have like 20, 30 players showing up to a tournament, doing what Tord does, that's where things could get really interesting. But we will get there eventually as long as the game continues to grow and expand, and it has been. So it'll be interesting to see what could come of that once we have players kind of being full time Pokemon players.
Yeah, you just gotta make it happen, buddy. Alright,
Okay.
let's,
Hey, someone has to restream these tournaments and put on the show matches. So I think my time as maybe being that first player is kind of past. We'll see. But I'm content doing what I do in the community.
Sure.
Yeah, listen, I'll put on the show matches to showcase their skill. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm here for at this point. But if you guys are still letting me win tournaments at 30, I'll take it. So that's kind of on you at that point. So
Well, we'll see what happens later this year. Alright.
we'll see.
Let's make some predictions here about this tournament that's going to happen this weekend. First one, will anyone make it to day 2 with Tord Box? Kind of the big talk of the community the last weekend.
Tough one. I think a big part of this is gonna come down to if any of the really good players choose to pick this up, and I think my answer for that is gonna be no. So that's like the first question I would have, but and then but from there, it's just like, can enough people get a decent with the deck enough to the point where they could
Comfortable
pick it up,
enough, yeah.
comfortable enough?
Now, are we saying that it has to be
Definitely,
someone, does it have to be someone with the same 60 or just like,
just the idea, same idea, basically. If they
sure.
got Urshifu and quick shooting with Charizard, I think that's close enough, right?
Do they have to
So
play
yeah,
Mawile? Do they have to play,
I
double
think
pal pad?
no, like I think just Urshifu quick shooting Charizard. If they have all those, I think that'd be the
Yeah.
well. We could do Urshifu quick shooting Charizard, B barrel Pidgeot, and then whatever else stuff they put
But what if
around
someone
that, I
decides
think
it
is fine.
just needs to be 2-2 Bibarel?
Well, then they don't count. You have to have the Pidgeot.
Okay.
You could play a 2-2 B barrel with a 1-1 Pidgeot.
Well,
You
you
could
have
do
to play
that.
Squoga then if you're playing that, right? And
Well, there's and
if you're playing the other rapid strike stuff, you might as well play Metacham too, right?
I mean at that point, yeah. And we're playing Fire Energy, so let's put Radiant Charizard in. Although there are some other good Radiant Pokemon, and then to find all those Pokemon, we got to play Heavy Ball. We got to play the Peonia.
I
This
think
is
it's gotta
probably
be the
I,
toward
this
60,
is
buddy.
no, 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 no. If it's a couple cards off, right? If it's a couple cards off,
How could someone look at that deck
and come
and
up with a card to change.
yeah, yeah.
I
How
mean,
could you
after you
ever
play a
change
couple games,
something?
I'm sure Tord's play like at post tournament. Tord probably already has ideas of cards that would change, or Tord already like knows cards that would want to be adjusted depending on the meta, right? I'm sure if Mew was more popular, like you would want to play a Drapion or a Spiritomb because I don't think that deck actually has a very good Mew matchup, DTE or non DTE, because
Yeah.
it is so much less consistent around its Charizard game plan. So if you know Charizard or Mew's going to be popular enough, you probably include something like a Drapion, like a Spiritomb, whatever one's better. I'm not sure. Um, so there's that. But I think like even if you don't have like the top players in the region choosing to pick it up, I think it could still make day two. I don't think many people will actually end up bringing it with how close we are to the tournament. So I'm gonna go. How many people are gonna play this deck? I'm gonna go with no Tord box on day two. I'm gonna go no Tord box.
Yeah, I think
It'd
that's
be funny if
probably
Tord shows up to the event and makes day two with it though.
I think no's a pretty safe bet. I'm gonna stick with the no as well. Also, like, a lot of people, like we said, this is their first tournament in, what, like, 4 months?
Forever. They've already been
3
playing the
months,
deck
4
they're gonna
months?
bring for the last couple of weeks or
Yeah,
something.
like, is there really something that's gonna come out the week before that they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna change this deck that I've been working on for."
I mean, some people just like playing like cool decks,
That's
right?
true too.
And there are some pretty good players who just like playing cool decks, right? They're not too concerned with trying to play the best deck, or like work really hard on a deck. Like, oh, that's the coolest deck right now. I'm gonna play it, right? It's a pretty cool deck. So
Alright, next prediction, what will the highest placing Chien Pao be after a top 4 finish this weekend? Obviously, the first place finish in Dortmund. Where do we see Chien Pao being placed?
I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a top 8, I think. I think that's a good place for it to be. I think
I'm gonna
it's
go.
reasonably likely someone's
I was gonna
been
go
cooking with it
a
since
little bit
LAIC
further.
and
I'm gonna go with the finals. I'm gonna say we get a.
ooh.
Well, I guess can I say finals or I have to pick second or first?
No, no, finals is fine.
All right,
The top
finals.
2, top 2.
Top two. Top two. Yeah. Jump out
Alright,
of the finals.
and then last prediction, will Mew make it to the top 8?
Man, I think a lot of this kind of comes down to how popular Roaring Moon is. Even though Fusion Mew has a better time, I still feel like Roaring Moon is probably favored in that matchup. Roaring Moon has been ridiculously popular, and I think one thing that I think is like kind of been a trend that I've been trying to pay attention to recently is just like if tournaments happen really close together, and also if it's like two different regions, the meta is not going to change too much,
Yeah.
and we're usually on close to the same page. So like Latin America hasn't an event in forever, and they haven't had an event where Roaring Moon has been popular. And there hasn't been enough shift in the meta, I think, to like kind of take away from that. So I think, and because we had like this huge break up until the Utrecht into now this regional in Brazil. So I think I'm gonna go with no, Mew will not make top eight. 'Cause I think Roaring Moon will still be like a 12% meta deck
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a yes. One last ride, one last time, someone's gonna
until
want
Vancouver.
to
There's gonna be
play it.
another one
Well,
last
for
ride.
them, for
Oh, for
them,
them.
for yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. But every
They're
tournament for them is a last ride, bro. They
yeah,
have.
it's there's the risk of that for sure. I do think Moon will probably be the most popular deck
I don't
in
know about oof. I don't know. I could still see Charge up in those. It'll be close,
I
right?
think it's gonna be Moon, man. I think Moon is like uh
I think we have a solid top 4. It's like Charizard, Moon, Tina, Guardy, but Guardy's always gonna be the least popular, and then it's like between those 3, they kinda mix it up a little bit up there
sure, sure.
on
I think
top.
that's fine. Yeah, fair way to look at it. Um, but yeah, I think that's all we've got this week. Azul, you got any other thoughts? Anything else you want to say to the people?
No, I don't think so. You can go ahead and close this out here, Chip.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks so much to everyone for listening. As always, we appreciate your support. And if you want to show us a little bit of extra support, be sure to do that by leaving us a rating, a like, a review, a comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go check out our second YouTube channel as well, the Uncommon Energy channel. Um, we will have the next episode of the Evolution series coming out this week. I guess we should have maybe said that at the beginning of the episode. We didn't say that,
Yeah.
but it
So,
will be
yeah.
coming out this week. So keep your eyes out. Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a very exciting episode as well. And if you want to stay up to date with myself and Azul, the best place to do it really is over on Twitter. You can follow myself at Chipperchi, Azul at Azul underscore GG. And then you can follow the podcast at uncommon underscore energy.
Yeah, yeah, appreciate the support as always. Just going off what Chip said, yeah, new Evolution Series episode will be coming out on the YouTube channel, the Uncommon Energy YouTube channel, not this podcast channel, and it will be available 24 hours early to any of our Patreon subscribers. And with that said, have a good one. Good luck if you're going to Goiania Regional Championships. And we're gonna jump over to the Patreon bonus episode.